Welcome to Stay Awhile, the podcast that's virtual soul food for your ears. I am your host, Tommi Vincent, and each week we break bread with bold, passionate women who have faced the impossible and are still standing to share their testimonies. Make yourself at home and stay a while. Hey everyone, it is Tommi Vincent, your host of Stay a While podcast. And today I have joining us at the table, Tina Ruffin. Tina is the Vice President, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer at the Tennessee Titans. She has been recognized as NFL Next Woman Up and In Focus Magazine Most Powerful Woman, and has received an Emmy Award for societal concerns. Additionally, Tina is a Tennessee State University alum. Welcome to the table, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I am really grateful and honored that you have taken time out of your schedule today to join me for a conversation. And my very first question for you today is, who is Tina Ruffin?
Wow, she is complex. How much time is the podcast? Tina Ruffin is the example of perseverance. I have had the wonderful opportunity of growing both personally and professionally and like spiritually. And just like I am someone who welcomes and embraces all the wonderful opportunities that have been afforded to me. I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised. And I have been with the Tennessee Titans now. On September 2nd, I celebrated my 27th year, and I'm entering my 28th season with the team. Really proud of my journey. I would have never thought, if you would have asked young Tina where I'd be at this point, I never would have thought I'd be here. But the organization has afforded me an amazing opportunity to grow as a professional. I feel like there's been a lot of opportunities within the organization that many people have to go and jump around to be able to experience. But I started as the receptionist and I worked my way up through football operations. I was on that side of the organization for the first 16, 17 years of my career, most recently transitioning over to the business side. And it's been a fun journey. It's been a tough journey, but I've learned a lot in the process, and here we are.
So you went from an executive administrator up to an executive in the organization. What has been the key to sustaining such a long and evolving career at the organization?
Wow, I think one of the reasons my career has been able to flourish the way that it has is the confidence I've had in myself and my ability, even when others didn't necessarily see it in me. I've had people in my life that poured into me a lot. And so the building didn't define my confidence, right? And so because I knew that I was capable, even when it was challenging, I kept going. There were moments where I would stop and ask myself, like, is this where you're supposed to be? I learned very early on learning how to be quiet and be still and listen and be guided in your decision-making process, not doing in your decision-making process. And so there were many times along my career that I was told no. I was told that's not a position that's held by women. I was told I was patronized. I was all the things that people experience that are less than desirable. And it was in those moments that I had to have something else beyond what I was being told. I had to have something beyond the professional side to get me through it. I remember specifically there was one time back early in my career where there wasn't a lot of women in any positions other than administrative. And one of the older gentlemen at the time who was with the organization said, you're just a secretary and that's all you'll ever be. And so I had to make a decision, right? I called my mom and I had to make a decision. Do I believe him or do I believe in me? And it was in that moment that I learned how to believe in me and not externally what people told me or tried to perceive who I was or what I was capable of. And so I think that's when I think about sustainability, whether it be for me, luckily in one organization or in a career. I think belief in self is one of the most kind of important mindsets that needs to be accomplished to do so.
Now, that's not something that's easy to come by, especially in a moment where someone of authority is telling you, no, this is who you are, and you were able to pull from this area of confidence. Where did that confidence come from?
Yeah, it's funny because to say it now, it feels like someone told me no or something said something negative, and I was like, oh well, and I just kept going. But when you look back at it, it was not that simple. It was a lot of heartache and pain in the process.
Mm-hmm.
But I am very fortunate to have always had a really strong support system in my life. A group of very strong women that poured into me differently, and kind of embedded in me the value of who me really is. I know that's grammatically incorrect, but my point is I understand me. And it wasn't an easy thing. It wasn't an easy journey, particularly given when I started with the organization, there were only 6 women. I was the only Black woman. And so I didn't have the traditional sense of the word mentor. I didn't have someone that could understand my challenges. I didn't have someone that when it was time to go outside to practice, and if it were raining and I didn't want to get my hair wet, they would understand that scenario, right? So I had to figure those things out. But I do say the ability to figure them out and looking out, in our organization today where we have a lot more women, but we have 20 Black women in the building, like I can pour into them in a way that I didn't necessarily have anyone there to help me during those difficult times.
What are some of your personal core values that have been a driving force in the longevity of your career?
One of the things I say a lot, and it sounds, when I say it, it'll sound kind of cocky, but it's not. It's train them how to treat you. That is kind of the way I've carried myself. And I don't say that to say I am Tina and you are going to respect me and that is it and no questions asked. What it means to me is I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am, and I want to be treated a certain way, regardless of where I am, right? I deserve that level of respect. But I'm also going to give that level of respect. I'm going to respect you. I'm going to respect your position. I'm going to respect your knowledge. I'm going to respect you for what you bring to the organization. And I expect that in return. So if I give it to you and I want it back, that's me training you how to treat you. So I'm never going to treat anyone in a way that I don't want or expect to be treated in return. And so I think for me that being the example of how important it is to be a good teammate, be a good person, be a good mentor, be a good sounding board, be a good listener, all of those things, that melting pot of what makes us like whole, I think is what my train them how to treat you mentality is what's kind of carried me throughout the course of my career.
And Tina, that carries over into every aspect of our life, every relationship and every opportunity that is before us. When we show up into the place, when we take our seat at a table, we are presenting ourselves, and what we allow is, or what we tolerate, it sets the stage for how people will then move forward in the relationship with us. So that is a valuable core value that can carry over into every aspect of our lives.
It absolutely does. It's funny because sometimes or for myself, like there might be areas that I'm extremely confident in, but then there are areas where I'm not so confident in, right? And so in learning how to be able to translate a lot of what you do at work or what you do in your personal life or what you do with your friends and family, however it works, like that same level of confidence in who you are is important. I tell that to my son all the time. I tell that to young people all the time when I'm working and mentoring them. How do you get, because that's a question I get all the time. Like, you've been here forever. It's so hard and it's so challenging. And how do you do it? And what do you do? Like, people want a playbook, right? But my biggest message is always like, who are you at the core? You got
Mm-hmm.
to know who you are, right? You got to know who you are in every situation and every circumstance. And then that's what leads you, because you're going to walk in a door and you're going to be hit with resistance at every from every direction. How are you going to handle yourself? Like, you have to create your own playbook. It's very important for you to understand that. And then that's how you handle yourself and navigate all the complexities that come along the way.
Mm-hmm. So for that person who, like yourself in the beginning of your career, there was no playbook. And fortunately, you yourself, you can serve as a mentor to other people in the building because you've had that longevity in your career. But for the person who doesn't have the confidence to go ask for help, to, put out there that I really don't know what I'm doing, what advice would you give to them on the first step to creating the first play in your playbook?
But that's so great. Like, I think back to little young Tina all the time, and how I ask myself often, like, how were you able to do it? How were you able to figure it out? Because
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of challenges along the way. I have to go back to having very strong women in my life that had experienced professional challenges. And I had been fortunate enough to witness them experience some of those challenges. The one thing I think I took away, the unspoken thing that I took away from that, is they relied on their community. And so I learned how to rely on my community when I had those challenges, because my mom tells a story a lot. I played the violin when I was growing up, and my mom tells a story a lot, or she used to before she passed away. But I was in the seventh grade, and she was on her way to she was bringing me to school, and then she was going to work. And she dropped me off at school. But when she pulled up, it was all little white kids at school. And so she recognized that immediately. And she said, I'll stay here with you, even though she was going to be late for work. She said, I'll stay here with you until your friends come. And I said, oh no, Mom, I'm fine. I make friends wherever I go. And she said, I got my little violin out the car and I walked up to the front and I sat in, crisscross, and started engaging with the other students. And she said she pulled around the corner and she cried, because she said, in that moment, I knew you would be okay. And
Mm.
so I've never been a person that walks into the room and recognizes all the differences, um, because I think we all have them. And I think that's what makes us great, right? So I've never been that person that walked into the room and noticed I may be the only Black person, or I'm the only woman, or I'm the only person that graduated from an HBCU, or whatever that issue is here. I've
Mm-hmm.
never been that person that use that as the crutch, but I use that to my advantage. And so when there were those moments where I had to figure out what to do with my hair when I walked out to practice in the rain and I couldn't have that conversation with my counterparts, I relied on myself enough to figure it out. It may not have been easy, or I may not have liked it, or it may have been awkward. Um, but I was confident enough in making the decision, and I just owned it. Didn't always get it right, and wasn't always happy in the end. Had to go back. There's a lesson in losing. What do you learn in that lesson? And would have to
Mm-hmm.
go back and self correct. But I did that without feeling like I was a failure. I did that understanding that that lesson made me better for the next time. And I didn't know, I can't say that I knew that's what I was doing. It was just innate, right? It was something within me that helped me persevere through those times. And so my word to young people today is like, what is that? What is it in you that's driving you to be whatever it is you choose to be? Um, because if we're looking for a destination, it doesn't necessarily exist. It's the journey that we should be excited about. And so just trying to help people to understand and get excited about that journey, because if you are excited about that journey, tomorrow is definitely going to be better than today, which was better than yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're embarking on your 28th year with the Tennessee Titans. So you have literally watched the game of professional football evolve. What has been your proudest moment, or one of your most proudest moments?
Whew, gosh. I got a lot of them. Wow, what is been my okay? One of my most proud moments when I was on the football operations side professionally. One of my most proudest moments is when I was on the football operations side, and I had been working with for the general manager's office. At this point, I think I've been with the organization now 10 years. My history prior to joining the organization, I thought I was going to be a social worker and save all the children that were in unfortunate situations. My mom was a foster mom and a geriatrics nurse, and everybody around me was in the helping profession. So I just knew I was going to save all these kids, and that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And so when I got into the opportunity to work for the Tennessee Oilers at the time, I fell in love with this department. It was player development, and I loved it so much. And I was like, it mirrors social work in a lot of ways. You're helping guys with things and situations that don't necessarily deal with like the X's and O's of football. And I felt really confident that I could do that. And so I'd gone to our general manager at the time and I was like, I want this. And he was like, no. And so the position became available again in that 10-year period. The position became available 3 times. And I went to him and I really talked about, my passion for working and helping people. And he explained to me that was a position that was traditionally held by men, particularly former athletes, neither of which were me. And so the likelihood of that happening wasn't going to happen. The position became available again, and I went back to him and I said, I think I can do this. At that point, I'd start to really cultivate relationships with players, and they trusted me, and I felt really strongly that I was the person. I'd even had a couple guys go and advocate for me. And so he appeased me and he gave me an interview for it. And I never forget, I walked out feeling so good about myself, right? And he asked me to go down and grab one of the former players that was here from the lobby. I went down and grabbed him from the lobby and brought him back upstairs. And later that afternoon, they announced him as the next director of player development for the organization. It was a dagger to my heart because I knew I was prepared. I knew I was ready. I knew I had everything necessary. I had everything necessary to successfully accomplish that role. So in that moment, I had to ask myself, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this right for me? But I will tell you, within that moment for the next 5 years, and I made the decision to stay because I felt like God said there's something greater for you. You just got to hold on for a second. I learned so much about the business of the organization in a way that I had never seen it before. I had so many professional development opportunities. I met so many people beyond just the Tennessee Titans, but around the league that poured into me. And so 4 years from that date of being told no, our head coach at the time called me and said, you want to make history? And I said, sure. Doing what? We're wanting to offer you the opportunity to be the first director of player development as a female in the NFL. And we would love to have you do that. And so I get goosebumps thinking about it because I celebrated that moment literally for the next year. Because it wasn't just about me. That is when I realized this is bigger than Tina. So I was very proud of that, but not just because I accomplished it. I was proud of what it did for our community and how many people reached out and poured, and it gave them hope and it gave them opportunity and it made them feel like I can see myself in that space. So professionally, I love that I carried that. I love that I carried that. I was the first to do it, but I was the first to do it to be able to provide hope for so many beyond just me.
Right now in the world of sports, women are, there's a spotlight on women in sports. And your story is a great example of how this is not new. The impact that women have been making in sports, it has been happening for a very long time. However, people are just now kind of looking at it. And so they see, and they're having an opportunity to, look at the women in sports and the work that they've been doing. Over the years, aside from the amazing story that you just told and the history that you've made, what are some of the memorable moments that you've had where women, came to the forefront in the industry of sport, and the light was on them, and other women around the world of sports had their celebrations because of the moment?
It is, for me, the biggest hurdle that has been jumped is we have a community and a network of women. I
Mm,
can call women around the league who understand the challenges now. I see women in executive positions and they are killing it. I see organizations hiring women because they're capable, not because they're a woman or because they have to fit a quota. I
mhm,
love the fact that we are actually being seen and heard for who we are and not what we represent. But I love that I love being a woman, and I love being a woman in those positions, and I love inspiring and encouraging other women with those levels of opportunities. There was one time early in my career, I felt it was necessary not to look like a woman. Because
mhm,
if I look like a woman or if I act like a woman, then they'll see me as a woman and then they won't give me the opportunity. And I'll never forget a young lady who was with the NFL office at the time. She's not anymore. And she goes, own it. She goes, you earn the right to be where you are. You earn the right to be in those spaces. If you want to wear a pretty pink blouse under your suit, you wear it. You know what I mean? She was like, don't wear a white shirt just because you feel like it makes you blend in. And that's when I truly learned the value of being who you are and being different and being and taking that to the table. I had a general manager once tell me if I wanted someone who thought like me, I would do it myself. Like, I
mm,
don't need people who think like me. I need people who bring differences to the organization because that's what makes us valuable. And so now, looking back, as I mentioned, there are 33% of our executive staff now is women.
mhm,
Never had been before. Um, there are of our leadership team, we've got several Black women that are VPs. That had never happened before. Um, like celebrating and I say Black women, but we've got several women
mhm,
collectively that are VPs. Being able to celebrate our moments like that. We have VP luncheons here for the women within the organization. We've got 13 women VPs within our building. Never happened before. So looking around and seeing that these women are in these positions because they deserve to be there. And our executive team and our organizations now are looking at qualified candidates regardless of their gender. Just brings me joy. Like I can go on and on about that because I fought to get someone to pay attention to me. First, I thought the best way to do it was to dumb myself down and wear, baggy shorts and tennis shoes. And then I thought, okay, then someone told me you don't have to do that. And now all of a sudden people are accepting you and your expertise and your value because you belong there. It's just really cool to see.
We could spend so much time trying to crack the code on, what will garner support for me in this role and in this opportunity. And the secret sauce is being yourself, because that is an added value that no one can bring to the table but you. And so there's something that you said in your answer where you talked about this moment to celebrate, you gathering to celebrate the group of women that are doing the work and are excelling in those positions. Sometimes I think we focus a lot on what's not happening and, the more that needs to be done. That can be true. And also really making sure that we take opportunity to celebrate and experience joy in the journey, because it takes a lot of work to get anywhere in life. And so if you just spend the entire time fighting the whole way
Oh my gosh.
to this destination that you don't even know what the destination is, you'll
Right.
be exhausted
You will
and
be
you'll miss
tired.
the moments. You'll miss
Right.
all of the amazing moments that are taking place.
Yes. I actually had this conversation with a young lady on Tuesday, this exact conversation. And she's been really sad, right? Her energy has been different than who I've known her to be. And so I called
Mm-hmm.
her and I said, I want to just talk about it. What's going on with you? And she said her exact words were, if they don't treat me the way I feel like I deserve to be treated, then they don't deserve the best version of me. And I said, honey, but don't you deserve the best version of you? Don't you deserve? So you're going to allow the energy of someone else to take you away from who you are. I said, you can't give them that control. What do you deserve? You have to think about less about what you're giving others and more about what you're pouring into yourself. And so I encourage you and I challenge you. I challenged her. I was like, let me see the best version of you. And don't do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself. Um, because there's something you're supposed to be learning right now. And it's a very pivotal part in your life. I was telling her, I said, we used to have a coach that would say, I got some good news and some bad news. Which one you want first? And she goes, well, I want the bad news. And I said, well, the bad news is you're running out of time. Because if you're spending your time focusing on what someone else is doing to bring you down, you're draining yourself and you're allowing that to control the narrative of who you are going to become. I said, but the good news is you got time. So take this opportunity and take this moment and really figure out what you're supposed to be learning right now versus what is being taken away from you right now. And if you can master that, if you can master when the times aren't great or less than desirable and aren't good, what you're supposed to be learning in those moments, because it's easy when things are great, right? The challenge is when it's not so great. What are you supposed to be learning right now? But you can't allow others to control who you become.
Yeah, we got it. We can't throw in a towel,
No.
because that's in the journey. You'll get that all the way. Every step of the way, you'll have moments where you'll be celebrated and elevated, and then you'll have times where you'll get the responses like you were receiving along the way, where opportunity was not given to you, but you don't want to give up there. So part of your contribution has been through philanthropic work with the Titans Foundation. Why is community outreach and impact such a priority for you?
Part of the reason why community outreach and impact are such a priority to me is because I'm a product of someone taking the time to pour into me. I mean, I think oftentimes we think about how much we do for others, but we don't necessarily recognize the value of how two things of how much when you help someone else, it impacts them in a positive way, but also how it impacts you in a positive way. I will say there were moments, or there are moments because I'm still actively engaged with our community impact team, that I go in with the mindset that I'm helping someone else and I walk out in tears of how much that other person has helped me. Um, I think that's something that we need to think about more, whether it be organizationally, within the communities that you live, within your social circles, with your family, or just with yourself. Like, how can you give back to others? I think our journeys are intentional. It's the journeys that we have are intentional to help us be equipped to be able to give ourselves to others and not hold it all inside. And so I love being an active member of the community. I love engaging in the community. I love determining and figuring out ways that I can help. And I love helping people identify that as well. Um, if you're looking for the best way to get connected, figure out what your passions are, where you feel most strongly about providing and giving to others, and then go do that. But it's something that I think we all have a responsibility for, but I think it's not a responsibility that should be burdened. I think it's a responsibility that we should own and see how helping others can also be an asset in helping ourselves.
So Tina, when you hang up your cleats for the last time
Oh dear.
at the Titans organization, what would you consider to having had success?
My professional success would be I left it all on the field. I put it all
Mhm.
out there. I mean, I used myself. I used my whole self, right? I helped others. I grew. Others helped me. I developed things. I learned. I became better as a person professionally, both in what I did. I learned more about what others did. I can hope that others felt valued when they were around me. I can hope that people were inspired. I can hope that people learned from me, whether it was in conversation or in viewing or witnessing things that I've done. I hope people walk away feeling like, I joke a lot. I'm a big joker. Whether people find me funny or not, I find myself hilarious. But, one of the things I often say is my door is always open unless it's closed. But because I want people to feel so comfortable always coming in and talking to me, regardless of what's going on. I want to be there for people in a way that people may not necessarily have someone else that can be there for them. I also want, people to recognize the value in who they are and what they bring. One of my other little weird sayings is, there is no I in team, but there is in Tina, because I think we all have. And I'm so glad you're laughing, Tommi, because I find me hilarious. But, we all have value, right? Like, it's not about the team. You don't have value in the team if you don't recognize what you bring to the team.
Absolutely.
And so I just hope that years from now, people are remembering whenever that day comes. And I don't know when that'll be, but I hope people remember that my value was far beyond just the work that I did, right? Like, we can all be hired for a job because we all have these impressive resumes and we can do the work. But who am I at the core? And I hope people will remember the value that I added to their lives as people, because I think caring about people and caring about the organization and caring about helping people get from wherever they are to where they want to be is something that's always been important to me. And I hope I'm remembered for that.
Mm-hmm. Let's move into our next segment. And this segment is titled, I Am Bringing Her to the Table. And this is your opportunity to give another woman her virtual flowers, because you would not be where you are today without her fingerprint on your life.
My virtual flower, first of all, I don't know the size of the table, but I'm going to bring women to the table with me, because when I think about the women that have poured into me growing up in my life, I am so grateful. I have 5 women that immediately come to mind. Of course, my mother was a saint. I'll just leave that there because I'll start to cry when I talk about her. But my mother was a saint. My mother was the person that poured into everyone. And when I was little, I didn't understand it. I would see my mom pour into people and then they wouldn't be very nice. And I remember going to my mom and saying, why are you helping them? They're not nice people. And she said, she would always have these amazing little mic drop moments where it was, just because you don't see it doesn't mean God isn't doing it. And as a kid, you're like, they're mean. I don't care. I wouldn't help them.
Yeah.
And so my mom was the most wise person. I think the people that didn't get to witness or have time with her, that's a disservice to them, because she was amazing. My aunt, I had Aunt Shirley, who's also passed on, and she was my professional society woman. She taught me what it was like to own being professional and to demand a certain level of respect. I wanted to be her because she was classy and she was confident and she was beautiful inside and out. And people, when she walked into the room, people automatically stopped what they were doing. And I loved that about her. My grandmother was a beautician. And so when you think about the beauty shop and everybody coming in and there's all this energy and excitement, my grandmother was the person that would stop and tell you. My grandmother, people would say to her, oh my goodness, we called her Humps, your little grandbaby is so cute. And she would say, isn't she? And I love that, because she didn't say thank you. She would say, isn't she though? Or people would say, I love your outfit. You look so nice. She'd say, don't I? And so she was this sassy woman who had this confidence that was through the roof. And I was just, when I grew
Now I
up,
see where you got it from.
We're friends here, so I'll share a little story. Tina was not the name I was given at birth. When I was little, I told my parents I wanted a name change. I wanted to be named after my grandma. Her name was Mary Louise. And they said, we are not changing your name. I wanted my name to be Mary Louise. And so I went back to them and I said, okay, compromise. This is 6-year-old negotiator, right? And I said, I love Ginger on Gilligan's Island. Her name's Tina Louise, right? So I named all my dolls. I had a cat named Tina. I mean, everybody, like I would only answer if they called me Tina. And so my parents said, we're not going to change your name to Tina Louise, but we will add Tina to your birth certificate. And so that was like, my grandmother was like, that's right, you get them. Like she was the one that had me thinking that I could do it all. So Humps was everything. My sister, I have an older sister, Liz. I have two older sisters, Liz and Roxy. Liz was she's 9 years older than me. And so I saw her journey through like school, and she pledged to sorority, and she was like in college, and like I was so fascinated by that. And so she was like the mom of how to be as I transitioned into from a child to young adulthood to adulthood. So she was like my second mom and still is to this day, like helping me see things logically. And that's the one thing I love and respect about her. And then I have my other sister, Roxy, who is as feisty as they come. She has the confidence of like a gold star. I don't know, but there's nothing you can say that will break her. And so she gives me that, teenager, you can do whatever you want to. That's right, teenager. So those women, like I am a melting pot of all of that love and support and like encouragement from that group of women. And I'm very grateful to have had that growing up and still having some of it today.
Mm-hmm.
So all of them are coming to my table.
Yeah. They gave you those some of those ingredients for your success.
Yes.
Speaking of ingredients, we're going to move into our next segment, which is all about food. So I have a few questions about some food, and then we're going to play a little game of this or that. So the first question in our Food is Love segment is, what food best describes your personality and why?
Probably spaghetti, particularly my mom's spaghetti. Because like you think about when I talk about all these women that poured all of this stuff into me, I'm some of like they gave me something and I held on to a part of it, right? So when you think about spaghetti, it's a comfort food. That's my mom. It's hearty, that's my aunt. It's got the little bit of spices, that's my grandma and my sister Roxy, but then it's got some sweetness, that's my other sister Liz. So you think about the pastas and the meats and the veggies and the sauces and all of that poured into one pan to create this amazing meal. Like I would say spaghetti would be Tina.
Okay. Name a time in your life when food was healing for you.
It's still healing. So a couple years ago, almost to the day, my mother passed away. And my mother was and still is the center of so much of who I am today. I find myself quoting her a lot as I've gotten older. You've heard the saying, like, you become your mom. Like, I have truly become my mom. And I love that because I really, cherished all of the moments and times that we got to spend together. If I had one more, I'd love it. But I'm grateful for everything she's done and how she poured into me. But my mom's spaghetti, I think that's in a song somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, my mom's spaghetti is like my all-time favorite food. My mom's sweet potato pie is my all-time favorite dessert. My mom's mac and cheese, like these are whether together or individual, I could have any of those items again, like very healing. And so it's funny, like not funny, but my mom passed away, and as she got older, we didn't get the opportunity to get a lot of her recipes, and that was because she had dementia and it affected her ability to remember everything as greatly as she would have liked. And so we missed that opportunity. And so my sisters, they cook really well and they try and they get close, but not as close. as there is not perfect, right? But they cook really, really well and it's very good, but it's not my mom's. And so
Mm-hmm.
most recently, my husband was making spaghetti, and I didn't know this was something that he knew how to make. He made it. He's a great cook, but I'd never tasted his spaghetti before. And he made it, and I took a bite of it, and no exaggeration, it was so emotional for me because it was the closest to my
Mm-hmm.
mom's spaghetti that I've had since she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like to be able to have that part of her has been something. He's like, we're not going to have spaghetti every week. I'm like, well, when you make it, make enough for me to eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for at least a few days because it is very therapeutic for me when I put that spoon in that or that fork in that spaghetti and eat it.
So I know you said that, you all didn't get an opportunity to get your mom's recipes from her. Um, was your grandmother a cook as well, where there were these recipes that your mom that were legacy inspired from her mom and it just kind of was passed through to that generation? Do y'all have those types of recipes?
My oldest sister Liz does. So my mom was the youngest of nine, seven sisters and two boys. And you would, if you went to eat at my Aunt Shirley's house or my Aunt Gussie's house or my Aunt Fred Joyce's house, the food was so consistent. Like every
Mm.
meal tasted the same. It was amazing how they were such like amazing cooks. And it wasn't written anywhere. It was like a pinch of this, a hint of that, and just a little dab of that. Now sprinkle some of that over there, and then you taste the spoon and you say, I need just a hint of salt, just a hint. And it was amazing to watch them. My older sister got to experience it a lot more than I did because she was in
Mm-hmm.
the room when they were cooking. So she has a lot of that. And so when we have Thanksgiving meals, like there are staples that our family is going to have. And it's not just the meal, it's how it's prepared.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm very intentional with saying my mom's spaghetti because it's not prepared like everybody else's. So don't just make me some spaghetti and think I'm gonna like it. Like it has to be prepared a certain way. But the spaghetti, the sweet potato pie, the macaroni and cheese, OMG, is so amazing. Beef stew, I know how to make that. I actually made it last night, but that was my mom's recipe. And yeah, like it's those things that you don't eat them often, but when you do, it's again, I say it's like emotional to be able to have them and taste them. I'm seriously, no exaggerating, looking forward to get home tonight so that I can have beef stew and cornbread because that's like what I feel when I feel like closest, like it's the familyness of being in
Yeah.
the kitchen and preparing that meal.
I have this theory with food. Where so like your family, I grew up in a family where we were also dump cooks, and so it was, if you weren't in the kitchen actually in the production of the food, you missed it
Yeah.
because there were no measurements, there were no written down recipes. You just had to be there and see it in motion so you could pick it up, you could catch it.
Yep.
um and so I get that. I come from that type of family. And there were things that I ate when I was younger that the experience always felt like a big hug to me when I had
Mm,
the opportunity to eat that
mm.
food. And as an adult, the nostalgia of eating that dish is still present, but it sometimes just isn't the same. And so my theory is that it was the love that
Mhm.
was the difference in, when my grandmother made it versus someone else made it, or my mom
Mhm.
made it versus someone else. And
Mhm.
so when you talked about the spaghetti from your husband and you had that emotional response, um, while it wasn't quite the same as your mother's, what was in there was his love.
Yeah.
And because his love is special to you, that spaghetti became special to
Honey,
you.
you gonna make me cry. That is so beautiful. It truly is. Like it, I mean, it's the like last night when we were making the beef stew and I was standing there peeling the potatoes and chopping the carrots and stuff, and like I think that's the excitement that I feel for wanting to go and eat, because beef stew, you know, you gotta cook it for that roast beef for 10 hours, whatever, all of it. But I think that's the excitement that I feel for wanting to go and have it, because it was something that was done together and it was something I feel like we put a lot of love into. But that's what I grew up with. Like, I was the youngest, and so they didn't push me out the kitchen. They gave me little things to do. Put her over here and do this. But I remember, like, there was somebody at every station. This person's over here
Yes.
straining the sweet potatoes, and this person's over here making the dough, and like everybody had a responsibility. And when it came together, oftentimes I would get in so much trouble because we would eat a piece of something before it was time. But it was because I couldn't wait. Like, it was the excitement of it. I couldn't wait. And then as I grew older and I moved away from home, whenever I would go home for special occasions, like my mom would make 3 sweet potato pies, 2 for the family that she would cook, and then 1 she would freeze for me to bring back to Nashville or wherever I was to cook, because I just needed 1 for myself. But those, because the love, you're right, the love that went into making those dishes was beyond just food to eat. It was the care and the nurturing and the love and all of those things that went into making it, that was what made it feel so special. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's get into this game of this or that.
Oh dear. Okay.
Barbecue ribs or pulled pork sandwich?
I'm from Memphis, and I don't know if everyone knows this, but we are famous for our ribs. So that part of me says yes, barbecue ribs. However, I love me a good pulled pork sandwich. Plot twist, pulled pork sandwich.
Dry rub or wet sauce?
Wet sauce. Hands down, wet sauce. Yes.
Gus's fried chicken or Uncle Lou's fried chicken?
Gus's.
What's the difference?
I don't know. I like it. Once I like it, there's nothing you can do to change it. So Gus's, we're going with it.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this one, but sweet potato pie or peach cobbler?
Oh my goodness. Easy layup. Sweet potato pie. All the words. Sweet potato pie. I love it. Like, I love it so much. I'm telling you, like, it was so funny. Like, my mom would make these pies and people would be like, why does she get a whole pie to take back? We got to get slices. And she eats some of those slices, and then she gets a whole pie to take back. I would eat it for breakfast. I would eat it at lunch. I would eat it. I mean, I could eat a sweet potato pie in a day easy. Love it so much. Love it.
Are you the baby?
Why does that matter, Tommy? I'm just asking, like, why is that important?
Because I think I know the answer. Catfish or hot wings?
Catfish. Oh, love catfish. Yeah. My granddaddy used to go and get catfish, and we would, oh yeah. So catfish, hands down. Yes.
Cornbread or biscuits?
It depends on the meal. So are we talking like, I'm doing cornbread tonight with my beef stew. Cornbread. We'll go with cornbread. Yes.
Sweet tea or lemonade?
Can we do both? Can we do like the the mix?
The Arnold Palmer?
The Arnold Palmer? Or I will say lemonade. Yes, lemonade.
And last but not least, banana pudding or pecan pie?
Okay, this is going to be a very unpopular response, but I don't like neither. I like neither. Yeah, that's tough for me. I can't. I don't like either of them.
Hey, listen.
I'm a Southern girl who doesn't like pecan pie or banana pudding.
Listen, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But thank you for being a good sport and playing the game with me. And thank you for coming to the table today and sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience. I believe that our listening community will have an opportunity to pull some quotables because you gave us some great ones and some words to live by. And I appreciate the value that you've added to our community today. Is there anything that we did not talk about that you would like to share with our community?
Thank you for having me, for starters. I appreciate any opportunity to be able to have conversations like this because oftentimes it's, again, I'm a melting pot. I try to learn and grow whenever there's a chance and whenever there's a moment that I can have some nugget that's going to make me be a better version of myself. So thank you for allowing me to even be here to have this conversation. But I love the conversation. I love the opportunity to encourage. I encourage other people to have these levels of conversation because all of us have something that we can pour into someone else. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily see ourselves as, you think about, people will say, oh, my boss is a leader, or, the person over my church is a leader, or the head of my family is a leader. But I think we all have that ability in us to lead. And so I would encourage people who are listening and the community of people listening to Stay Awhile podcast to find what you can do to pour into someone else, because I think we can all be better when we look to bring each other up. So thank you for having me, but I'd love to talk. We can talk. It's so fun. I could do this for a whole nother hour. So this has been great.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming to Stay a While. And just know, Tina, there's always a seat for you at my table.
I'm going to come. I'll be there. Thank you.
I hope you felt the love and connection in today's conversation. Every woman you heard from has faced the impossible and emerged stronger. This is your personal invitation to stay a while longer at TommiV.com. That's TOMMIV.com for more inspiration for your mind, body, and soul. And let's not forget your belly. You're always welcome at my table. Please be sure to subscribe, make yourself at home, and stay a while.